Interest of time, let's get this meeting started. I would like to call this meeting to order and ask the clerk to do a roll call, please.
Desmond. Here. Frost. Guetta.
Here.
Harris.
Frost is here. Sorry.
No problem. Guetta. Harris.
Here.
Kozlowski.
Yes.
Kennedy. Here. Miller. Natoli. Sandhu.
Here.
Chenier. Cerna.
Here.
Spees.
Present.
Terry. Valenzuela.
Here.
Vang. Singh Allen.
Here.
And you have a quorum.
Madam Chair and Madam Clerk, this is Eric Guerra here.
Okay, I will notate that you are in attendance and you still have a quorum.
Very good. All right, at this time, would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? And I'll ask the city clerk to lead us, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. And would the clerk please read the announcements and instructions for public comment and how to view the meeting?
Yes. In compliance with directives of the County, State, and Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the meeting is open to public attendance pursuant to health and safety guidelines. The practice of social distancing and wearing of face coverings is recommended for the health and safety of all persons participating in person during the meeting, although it is not required. Seating is limited and available on a first-come, first-served basis. To make a public comment, please complete a speaker request form and hand it to the clerk. The chairperson will call your name when it's your turn to make a comment. To make a telephone comment at today's meeting, dial 916-875-2500 and follow the prompts to be placed in queue for a specific agenda item or off-agenda matter. When the chair opens public comment for a specific agenda item or off-agenda matter, callers will be transferred from the queue into the meeting to make their public comment. You may also send a written comment to boardclerk@saccounty.gov, and your comment will be routed to the board and filed in the record. And just for people in the audience, these are the speaker slips cards here. You can get them from me and then hand it back to me when you're done completing them. This meeting of the Sacramento Transportation Authority is cablecast live on Metro 14, the local government affairs channel on the Comcast Consolidated Communications and AT&T UVerse cable systems. This meeting is closed captioned and live streamed at metro14live.saccounty.gov. Today's meeting will replay Sunday, October 16 at 2 p.m. on Channel 14. And that concludes my announcements.
All right, thank you. We are up to the comments from the public regarding matters not on the agenda. Would the clerk please advise us if there are comments from the public regarding matters not on the agenda?
I do not have any speaker slips here in chambers, and I do not have anyone in queue to speak to item number 1. And I also just want to state for the record that Director Natoli has arrived.
All right, welcome, Director Natoli, and we will move on to our next item, our Executive Director's Report. I'd like to call on our Executive Director for the report.
Thanks very much. So here I'm going to present on just a couple of items as part of the Executive Director's Report. First of all, I just want to apologize for being sick. I could not attend in person. I've got to keep a safe distance. I'll be attending this meeting remotely. So first update on Senate Bill 1 Local Partnership Program and formulaic funding. SAA staff has requested from Sacramento Regional Transit, Sacramento County, as well as the cities for all their applications for the Local Partnership Program formulaic by September 30th. We received those applications. We're in the process of reviewing those applications. We'll provide comments back to those agencies so that we can ultimately submit to the CTC in November, mid-November. And then an update on the STA and SACOG MOU. STA staff's been working with SACOG on the MOU, specifically defining the scope and how the GHG study would be implemented. We're making good progress. We anticipate a draft scope being going to the STA board in November and the SACOG board similarly in November. That's what we're targeting right now. So that everyone can see what that scope would look like. It would be a draft scope, not a final scope. It would give us an opportunity for public comment and additional coordination and outreach. And then a final scope would come back later with with a more detailed budget schedule and agreement component. So it's a little two-step process. We're trying to keep it transparent. And then along with that effort, there is a third-party consultant that will be hired, and that will have to go closely thereafter once that agreement is reached on the scope of the study. And then a final update is on partnering, leveraging, and advocacy that STA is doing. So Sacramento Regional Transit and STA submitted a formal letter to SACOG asking SACOG to submit for a sustainable transportation planning grant for a comprehensive multimodal corridor plan on US 50 Gold Line and the American Road Parkway. We believe this will allow the Sacramento area to be much more competitive in upcoming Solutions for Congested Corridors program. And that, so far, we've received a positive response from SACOG on that request. And then lastly, this meeting is the last meeting that will have any letters of support for any of the SB1 solution, SB1 competitive programs, whether that's Solutions for Congested Corridors or Local Partnership Program, or even Trade Corridor Enhancement Program. I think that STA has done a good job in trying to support those applications. But the next cycle of the SB1 competitive programs, I would like STA to take a more aggressive role in trying to promote the projects that are in the Sacramento area, that benefit the Sacramento area through that competitive process. And with that, that's the executive director's report. I'm open to any questions.
All right, thank you for your report. Are there any questions or comments from the board? I don't see any hands raised.
I don't see any hand raises in the Zoom, and I do not see any of the members on the dais queued up to speak.
And are there any comments from the public?
I do not see any callers in the queue for items number 2, and I do not have any speaker slips in chambers.
All right, very good. Thank you for the report. We'll move on to our consent items. I would like to ask if any member wants to remove an item from the consent calendar. Not seeing any hand raised. Anyone from the dais?
No, there are no, and I'm sorry, just one moment, Chair. I think there's something going on here. Did you guys have a question?
Wait, what did he say, the SDA or?
This is for the Transportation Authority, yes. Did you want to speak to a particular item that's on the agenda today? Because that was the executive director's report.
I was just gonna ask if you could
The acronym that he said? Do you know for which part, which acronym?
I think he said the SDA, but I don't know.
STA?
I don't know if I heard it correctly.
Okay. What did you, do you remember like what was in relation to, so we can, I can see it. Okay, you know what, I'll make sure I'll get you a copy of his report, and then that way we'll get you some materials, and I'm sure it'll be in there. Sorry about that. Okay, sorry about that, Chair.
No worries.
Okay, so I do not have anyone on the dais that has any items that they want to pull from the consent.
All right, anyone from the public?
I do not have any speaker slips in chambers, and I do not show any callers in the queue for consent items 3 through 7.
All right, then with that, I'll look for a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar.
Okay, we got a motion by Desmond.
Kennedy second. Kozlowski.
I'm sorry, I heard 2 people at the same time.
Kennedy got it first.
Okay. And I got a second from Kennedy. And on to the roll call vote. Desmond?
Yes.
Aye.
Frost?
Aye.
Yetta?
Aye.
Harris?
Aye.
Kozlowski?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Aye.
Miller? Natoli?
Aye.
Sandhu?
Aye.
Chenier? Cerna?
Aye.
Spees?
Aye.
Terry?
Aye.
Valenzuela?
Yes.
Vang?
Yes.
And Singh Allen.
Yes.
And your motion carries with members Miller and Chenier being absent.
All right, very good. We will move on to our next item, item number 8. Senate Bill 1, Cycle 3 Local Partnership Program. And turning it over to Kevin.
Oh, thank you very much. Let me go ahead and pull that up. Okay, just confirming everyone can see that.
Yes, we can.
Yep.
Thank you, Darrell. Kevin Busey, Executive Director, STA, here to speak on item 8, which is the SB1 Local Partnership Program Competitive Project Prioritization. So a little background about the Local Partnership Program. It was created with Senate Bill 1 in 2017. It rewarded agencies for voter-approved taxes or fees. There's approximately $200 million annually for the Local Partnership Program, and it's split between a competitive and a formulated piece. We're here to talk about the competitive side today. So this is cycle 3 of competitive guidelines, competitive program, which covers funding for fiscal years 23-24 and 24-25. There is approximately $130 million available statewide under this program. And the maximum award under this program is $25 million. It requires a 1-to-1 match. It can only be used for construction. Applications for the program are due in November, end of November, November 29th. STA is the nominating agency for any applications that go through STA. And so STA's role is to prioritize those applications. And that prioritization will be considered when those projects are evaluated by the CTC. Here's the evaluation criteria. There are 10 of them. And 2 of those criteria emphasize disadvantaged communities. And so we're in a kind of a multi-step process. So at the last meeting, we had an item that essentially provided presentations of the 2 projects that were nominated. We also asked for project nomination forms that provided project information, how those projects align with the 10 evaluation criteria, what were the regional benefits of the project, and then each agency did a 10-minute presentation. And the 2 projects we talked about were the US 50 Gold Line Corridor Enhancement Project, which is a jointly nominated project by Sacramento County and Sacramento Regional Transit. That project provides improvements on the Gold Line itself to modernize the Gold Line, as well as US 50 between at Hazel Avenue, Folsom Boulevard, and Aerojet. And then the second project was the White Rock Road Safety and Congestion Relief Project, Phase 3, which is being proposed by the City of Rancho Cordova, which accommodates approximately 2 miles of safety and congestion relief on White Rock Road as Phase 3 of that project. It goes all the way to the city's limit. And before we get into the kind of the prioritization, we do have representation from Sacramento County. I believe Matt Darrow is there. We also have Sacramento Regional Transit staff that's available, and Albert Stricker with the City of Rancho Cordova is available for any questions anyone has on the projects before we get into kind of the next step, which would be the informal polling. So I just wanted to verify, Chair, that there's no questions on that before moving on.
Are there any questions or comments from the board regarding the projects? I see Director Kozlowski's hand raised.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you could outline just briefly the enhancements that you're talking about for the Gold Line corridor. We would endorse whatever it is out in Folsom because we're the terminus of that line. So excited to see it spiffed up.
Absolutely. If the county doesn't mind, I'll go ahead and answer, and then if they feel like they need to provide additional detail, I can. But from my understanding, it is they're going to modernize the light rail stations to accommodate the new low-floor light rail vehicles. They have funding for a portion, they can upgrade about half of each station. It'll accommodate 1 or 2 of the vehicles, and they need additional funding for phase 2 of that effort, which would do the full station. And it would, and I'd have to ask Matt. Matt, maybe Matt's there. He can say how many stations there are, but I believe there's quite a few stations. It'd be all the stations on the Gold Line.
That's outstanding. That's all I was looking for. Thank you very much.
Madam Clerk, were there any other hands raised? I can't see them from my end.
Darrell.
Yes, Supervisor Natoli.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. I wanted to be clear because I know you're going to ask us here in a moment to give some priority ranking to the two projects that are presented. So again, familiar with both of these, but I wanted to get an understanding as it relates to the requested amounts. $25 million is probably about 1/6, if I'm not mistaken, of the overall cost of the project, including Hazel, obviously the upgrades to Hazel Interchange and the upgrades to the light rail stations along the line, Gold Line. But with regard, and I got to make sure I'm correct on that, so Matt or somebody can tell me that. But then secondly, for Albert, the $9.2 million that's being requested, $2.5 million that's being requested, would that then complete the project with the other fundings available? Because again, these both require, I think, significant matches. But so I guess I'd ask that of both parties. But considering Albert, you first, because it's the lesser amount of the two. But obviously, a project is not as large in overall scope. So.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the board. Albert Stricker. I'm the Public Works Director for the City of Rancho Cordova, and Supervisor Natoli, thank you for your question. This funding would complete the funding that's necessary for this project to go to and complete construction. And one facet of this project that's particularly unique is it would be going to construction when the weather breaks in 2023.
And what's the total estimated cost of the project itself, Albert?
The total estimated cost is $24 million.
Okay, so there's just a little less than half of the overall amount. And the rest of the money is made up, what, through developer fee, other monies the city has set aside?
You're correct. It's previously obtained. We have some STIP funding as well as traffic development impact fees.
Okay. And you said construction next spring, if the funding's available?
That's correct. We would go to construction when the weather breaks in 2023.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Albert.
Thank you.
So maybe the same thing for Matt and RT. Again, I know it's a much larger project, but when construction be anticipated, because it may be segmented as well. So
yeah, so this is so Matt Darrow, Chief of Planning and Programs, Sacramento County Department of Transportation, and Jamie's with me here for RT. So I'll try and touch on some of the questions that I heard. The $25 million will be split 60-40 with county and SAC-RT and the two pieces of the joint project. Of the construction, it's 25% of the construction cost. 127 million for the entirety of both. The construction would be in the $97 million range, and we are bringing about 75% leveraged funds to complete the project. And then I'll let Jamie.
So what's the schedule, Matt, on the Hazel part of it? I mean, it may be different for RT, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, I believe we said right-of-way and final design by the end of 24 with spring of 25 beginning of construction.
For the Hazel interchange?
For the interchange with a two-year construction anticipated date.
Okay, thanks. Hi, Jamie.
Hello, good afternoon. Jamie Adelman with SAC-RT, Acting VP of Procurement, Real Estate and Special Projects. For SAC-RT, the $10 million ask on the LPP grant represents about 25% of the total Phase 2 construction costs for the Gold Line station conversions, and those are expected to be completed once full funding is available in fall of 25.
To be completed, so you actually would start construction how soon?
We would probably start construction just after Phase 1 is complete, and Phase 1 is expected to be complete in about fall of 24.
Okay.
So, yeah, right around
So the timing relative to, again, factors it can affect it, but would be similar to construction completion for the Hazel interchange, assuming that everything else, weather and such, fall in place, would be about 2026 for completion? Is that?
We're thinking fall of 25, yeah. So because this is a smaller undergoing than the first phase, we're just finishing the station to get a 3-car consist of the new S700 Siemens vehicles. Mm-hmm. So it's a little bit shorter time frame than Phase 1.
Okay, so for the two entities, then you're bringing So 75%, so you're bringing $75 million to the table between the two?
Correct.
Yeah, and that information's identified in our nomination form if you
Right,
receive
right. I
that.
just want, I'm
Yep.
clarifying.
That's accurate.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Matt. Good, thanks, Jamie. Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. That's all the questions I had.
Thank you. Were there any other comments or questions from the board?
None by any other members here in chambers, and I'm not seeing any other hand raises in the Zoom.
All right. Any questions from the public?
Can you ask him to come up and comment if he wants to comment?
Yeah, come up here. Come right up here too. Right there. Yes, we do have one public comment.
Okay.
Go ahead and speak into the mic.
Is the thing that takes less time the second phase, or what phase is the thing that takes less time?
And then once you're done, you just conclude your comments, and then they'll see if they can answer that question for you. Okay?
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Okay, so we have no other speakers in chambers, and we do not have any speakers in queue to speak for item number 8.
All right, then at this time, I'll turn it back over to Mr. Busey to introduce the polling.
Kevin, you're still on mute. There we go.
Sorry, I'm bringing it up here again. Okay, so we have the two projects. So in the staff report, we included an unofficial poll, which is shown on the right of this slide. And so there are essentially two projects. There's the US 50 Gold Line Corridor Enhancement Project and the White Rock Road Safety and Chester Relief Project, Phase 3. Those are the two projects. So what we're going to do is we're going to do an unofficial poll. We've done this the prior two cycles. It's worked well. And so the process is going to be that the clerk's going to go ahead and do a roll call. And then each member is going to list their priority. So as an example, if your priority was, number one priority was the US 50 Gold Line Corridor Enhancement Project, which is the first project listed, you would say 1, and then you say 2 because White Rock Road is the second. So you just say 1, 2. And if it was the opposite of that and White Rock Road was your priority, then you would say 2, 1, because that's the order that those are listed in the poll. So that's the kind of simplified instructions. Jarrell actually will tally the results in a spreadsheet that she'll provide so everyone can see it. Any questions on the instructions?
Madam Chair, this is...
Any questions from the board?
Yeah, this is Member Natoli, and it's not so much about the process here, but I guess I'm curious, Kevin, because the project delivery, or at least starts, are a little bit different. Obviously, there's a bigger sum of money involved. Was there any discussion as related to prioritizing, obviously, the projects? We're going to be asked to do that in a 1-2 order here, but since there's $25 million being sought by the two entities, Regional Transit and Sacramento County, and $9 million by City of Rancho Cordova, was there any discussion about, again, recognize there's only $130 million statewide, about collaborating here where you could send them forward, and again, it would be short of what was being asked by the county and Regional Transit, but if you had a combined ask of $25 million, there are additional rounds, and some of this will be obviously tempered by the timelines here. I guess I'm just curious about that, Kevin. Was there any conversation along those lines? I wouldn't expect Matt or Jamie or Albert necessarily to speak to that, but again, it's kind of pick one, pick two, versus looking at how we can do project delivery in the same general corridor, recognizing that White Rock parallels Highway 50 and obviously the Gold Line as well. So again, I get the multiples, the benefits, and all that, and given have to make a choice, I'm certainly capable of doing that. But I guess I wanted to know, as we look to this, was any thought about timing, about advancing, securing dollars through this process for both projects, one that would start next spring, one that would start probably the following year, but obviously bus orders need to go, or light rail train orders need to go in, and right-of-way acquisition. But if there's that much money already available to that project, sequencing this. And so I guess I'm asking of you, Kevin, what thought, if any, went into that before we put this to a vote?
Thanks for the question. Yeah, I know there was a lot of thought that went into the idea of combining the US 50 and the Gold Line project together. I know there was a lot of very conscious thought about how do we best meet, how does that project or those two combined projects best meet the criteria for this program. And I think from STA's standpoint, it was really unclear to STA how many nominations STA would receive for that September meeting. And we weren't sure if we were going to get 2 or, in past cycles, it's been up to like 6, I believe. And so in this specific example you're saying about potential for collaboration, we had kind of already outlined the process and what we were going to do in August about how we were going to follow the process, and also through we only got these 2 applications in September, so I know there wasn't a lot of discussion about should we combine efforts even further by including the White Rock in a combined ask. There was no discussions about that, no requests that I received. I do see the value in your comment though, and especially in future cycles. Understanding the projects that are going to be submitted and for what could provide the ability to collaborate at a much more regional level and a much more competitive level to be more successful in the future. So I like the concept. I'm afraid that we're a little late in the process. Applications are due in about 6 weeks.
Well,
hope that helps.
Yeah, it does, Kevin. And just give me one more moment here, Madam Chair. So, again, I'm certainly supportive, and I'm sure this body is of both of the projects. I've written letters in support, certainly of the White Rock project, as the supervisor that's represented the area for many, many years, is now in Supervisor Desmond's district with redistricting, at least a good portion of it. And I guess what I'm looking at here, though, is that one of the things that I know I've cited in my letters of support has been that the various modes of travel along the east-west corridor and how vital certainly White Rock, Folsom, Highway 50, the Gold Line, all of those are to day-to-day movements. But in the event that there's some sort of a shutdown of one of those highways and or the tracks, that there's other alternatives for not just for commuters but for emergency services and such. And so that's why I asked that. I get it that in August we anticipate we might get a half a dozen applications. We have these 2, and maybe it is too late to your point. But I do think that timing and certainly having the dollars available so those projects can move forward. But both of them come with significant dollars, but one is actually staged to go next spring, which would be a deliverable. The other one, obviously, because it's a much more major undertaking, and it combines 2 major corridors. So again, I guess it seems to me there would be the value, because if there's only 130 million statewide, we're asking for 34 million. We're going to proceed with that. I would imagine that whichever one we rank number 1 is probably going to stand, the better chance, even if we have a 1-2. And so that's why I asked the question, because I see the value of both of these projects. But the timing certainly seems to be a piece of this. And so you don't bring us a recommendation. You're asking this board to give you a straw poll, and then you're going to develop and come back with that. Is that what you're asking for?
Yeah, the recommendation was we do a straw poll, and then based on the straw poll, there's any discussion needed to prioritize, and we'll actually prioritize at this meeting. That would be the process.
So if I could, Madam Chair, I just want to ask, I guess, one other question of our applicants here, and then I'll be prepared to make a decision. But I guess I would ask of Albert and Matt, if, in fact, funding was not received in this round, how much would it delay the project progress? One's ready to go to construction. One is approaching that. Phase one's nearly done. Phase two ready to go. So if funding wasn't received through the state process, ever how we prioritize it, what does that mean is relative to delays? And maybe I could ask you, Albert, and maybe Matt, the same question.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the question, Supervisor Natoli. And if funding was not provided through this, we would not be able to fund the entire project, and construction would be suspended until such time as we were able to find and procure funding. So this is a unique opportunity to any funding that is obtained would be immediately be brought into and invested in this region.
Okay, thanks, Albert. Maybe for Matt and Jamie, same thing. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for the question.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Probably the biggest thing here is for the US 50 Gold Line Corridor Enhancement Project. We have received SACOG revolving match funds that are contingent upon getting some of these other awards. So we would lose that $4 million, and then it would really delay us in moving forward with this project.
So there's a time constraint to the SACOG revolving monies, Matt?
Yeah, it's a time constraint of receiving additional funding from these other programs like the LPP or MEGA, that we would lose that $4 million that would go back into the pot.
Okay. That was just a one-year allocation from SACOG? How does that work?
It's an incentive to match getting leverage for other funds.
Okay. All right.
Yes,
thanks.
it is. We lose it. We've been told many times.
Okay. No, I believe you. I just was curious. I don't sit on the SACOG board. Jamie, real quick.
Yeah, I agree with Matt. We would lose $2 million each, county and SAC-RT, in the revolving funds. And then if this ask were not to go through, SAC-RT would have to go back to other competitive sources and be competing against ourselves for other efforts.
Well, you can feel it. We're competing against ourselves with this discussion here today. So
We are.
Thanks, Jamie. Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate your time.
Of course. Were there any other questions from directors?
I do not have anyone queued up to speak in chambers, and I'm not seeing any additional hand raisers in the Zoom.
Hey, Chair,
All right.
Chair Singh-Allen, if I may, I want to make one additional comment, and I had said this in the executive director's report, but what we really need is a comprehensive multimodal corridor plan for the US 50 and Gold Line. And that allows us to be eligible for Solutions for Congested Corridor Program funds. And that funding, what Supervisor Natoli is suggesting, a combined ask under that program with all of these projects would work really well. But we're currently not eligible because we haven't done the planning that's needed. And that program is a much larger program. I believe it's 3 or 4 times the size of the local partnership program. And so that's part of the reason why I wanted SACOG to do that planning effort so that we can apply for these large projects along US 50, the Gold Line, American River Parkway. So that is an opportunity that we are looking at least looking forward to the next cycle. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Very good. All right. At this time, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll and ask for member rankings. And if the clerk would note that Director Guerra had to step aside, but he did indicate his preference, as you can see in the chat box. So
Yes,
please cast that accordingly.
I have taken note of that, and I will input that when we get to his name.
Very good.
All right. So everyone sees my screen here. So we have the projects there. So Desmond.
1, 2.
Frost.
Gold Line 1, White Rock 2.
Okay, and then Guetta was 1 for Gold Line and 2 for White Rock. Harris.
1, 2.
Kennedy.
1, 2.
Miller. Natoli.
1, 2.
Okay, that was Miller. Sorry, 1.
Did you get Miller? Yes, thank you.
Yes, 2. Okay, and now Natoli?
Yes, I would be Gold Line 1, White Rock 2. I just wanted to offer that because it would be loss of funds, I guess, versus delay of project. That's why I would support that rank order.
Okay. Kozlowski? Kozlowski?
Unmuted, I'm 1 and 2.
Okay.
Just everybody else.
All right, Sandu? 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 Chenier? Cerna?
The old 1-2.
Okay, Sing Allen?
1 and 2.
Speece?
1 and 2.
Terry?
Not that it's going to make much of a difference, but 2-1.
Valenzuela?
1, 2.
And Vang?
1, 2.
And I'm just going to go back up just to make sure members are not on the line. Sandu? Okay, and Chenier? All right, and that concludes the live poll tallying. So, Kevin, do you see that? Do you want to make any comments on this?
No questions. Turn it back over to the chair.
All right, then you can see the tally before you. So I would like to call for a motion in a second to prioritize the projects and take actions necessary to complete and submit the applications to the CTC.
So moved, Cerna.
Second, Kozlowski.
Okay, who
All right, we
wants
have a
it?
motion.
Desmond or Kozlowski? I have got both people at the same time. Okay, Kozlowski. Okay, so Desmond? Aye. Frost?
Aye.
Guerra? Harris?
Aye.
Kozlowski?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Aye.
Miller?
Yes.
Natoli?
Aye.
Sandu? Chenier? Cerna?
Aye.
Speece?
Aye.
Terry?
Aye.
Valenzuela?
Yes.
Vang?
Yes.
Sing Allen?
Yes.
And your motion carries with Guerra, Sandu, and Chenier being absent.
All right. Thank you very much. And then as you can see, items number 9 and 10 have been continued. So that brings us to...
I'm sorry, Chair. We actually need to have a motion for both of those items to be continued. So
All right.
I can go ahead and read item 9 into the record, and then we can go from there. So
Very good.
So item number 9 is going to be approve a strategy for the Smart Growth Incentive Program for the 2022-2023 SACA Community Design Program grant cycle.
All right. Can I get a motion in a second?
So moved, Frost.
Second, Terry.
Roll call.
Desmond? Frost?
Aye.
Guerra? Harris?
Aye.
Kozlowski?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Aye.
Miller?
Yes.
Natoli?
Is this the continue?
Yes.
Aye.
Sandu? Chenier? Cerna?
Aye.
Speece?
Aye.
Terry?
Aye.
Valenzuela?
Yes.
Vang?
Yes.
Sing Allen?
Yes.
And your motion carries with Guerra, Sandu, and Chenier being absent.
All right. Thank you. Next is item number 10. May I get a motion to continue this item and a second?
Okay, and I'm just going to read it into the record just for the record. Introduction of Citizens Initiative Draft Work Plan.
Move to continue, Cerna.
Second, Terry.
All right, please take the roll.
Desmond? Frost?
Aye.
Guerra? Harris?
Aye.
Kozlowski?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Aye.
Miller?
Yes.
Natoli?
Aye.
Sandu? Chenier? Cerna,
Aye.
Spees,
Aye.
Terry,
Aye.
Valenzuela,
Yes.
Vang,
Yes.
and Singh Allen.
Yes.
And your motion carries with members Guetta, Sandhu, and Chenier being absent. And so now
All
we're
right, very good.
on to comments of authority members.
Any comments from our directors?
Madam Chair, Director Natoli, very quickly, if I could.
Yes, please.
Yes, Kevin, you mentioned on item 8 that there's this multimodal and that SACOG needed to take the initiative. Could you maybe just to all board members give us some update of what that would require so that we would encourage closer collaboration in the future along our corridors? It might not just be there, but in that case where you inserted the American River Bike Trail as a part of that component, I guess if it's up to SACOG puts revolving monies up. They put other monies up for individual projects that we talked about here today. But I guess I'm curious as what does it take to advance this multimodal corridor plan so that we can compete on a greater level for funding that's important to this region and to the improvements supporting all modes.
Yeah, I can quickly talk about that. So US 50 is one of the only corridors in Sacramento area that doesn't have a comprehensive multimodal corridor plan. And so, I had reached out to SAC-RT, knowing that a lot of the improvements on that corridor really were more on the transit side, specifically asking them if they would work with STA to do the necessary planning needed for a comprehensive multimodal corridor plan and apply for this grant application. And we kind of talked with SACOG about it, and then SACOG felt that it made more sense for SACOG to take the lead in collaboration with Caltrans and obviously all the local and regional agencies involved in that corridor. And so the plan would be, there's a grant coming out, it's a planning grant in the next month or so. SACOG, I believe SACOG will apply for that grant. They may need a local match component for that, but we have not received a response regarding that. And then it would be about $1 million planning effort, and there would be a lot of outreach to the local agencies to sort of coordinate and really understand what do we need on that corridor, that combined, US 50, Gold Line. SACOG's interest is that it go all the way to about West Sacramento, and it all go into El Dorado County as well. So it is truly regional. And that planning effort could take a year or two once we actually receive the grant funds for SACOG to lead that effort. And then after that, we could then, if projects are ready, we can start applying with that plan for that Solutions for Congested Corridors program. So it could be a couple of years process, but the timing of it ideally would line up with the next cycle of the Solutions for Congested Corridor program, which is part of SB1. That funding would be beginning in FY 25-26. So it'd be about 2 years from now, we'd have those discussions about if we can use that planning document. Does that help?
Yeah, so are we dependent upon SACOG to make the application? You said STA and RT were talking, and SACOG said that they were going to take the lead, and we agreed with that?
Yeah, correct. And SACOG appears to be very interested in doing that, although I haven't received any sort of formal response.
Okay.
I could certainly push them to give me an answer, but I think they are very supportive of this concept.
Okay. Thanks, Kevin. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other directors?
I do not see anyone else in chambers, and I'm not seeing any other hand raises in the Zoom.
All right, then I want to thank everyone's participation. I will go ahead and adjourn this meeting.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bobby.